Hello, good evening everyone. Welcome to the Weiss Schwarz UK Open 2021. We're here with a round 2 feature match. My name is Ben, also known as Zistrel, and I'm joined by...
My name's Chris, also known as Dryadney on the internet.
Yep, so we have 2 matches for you today, maybe a bonus third if time will allow. So the first match we're going to look at is Liam versus Callum. Both players are on a 1-0 record at the moment. Liam's currently playing Fate Grand Order, Callum's currently playing Saekano. So have you got any initial comments to make here, Chris?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, just looking at the pair of the decks. They've both got a clear game plan that they seem to be going for. Personally, I think this might lean slightly more in Saekano's favour in the long run, but we'll have to see. You never know. We might get to see some early rush happening.
Yep. Alright, so I think there's not much that needs to go on, but yeah, so what we'll do is, we'll watch the game. The players cannot hear us, so we'll be giving commentary as they play, and probably after the game, we'll probably have a chat with them, sit down, talk about their games, talk about their decks, maybe go for a short interview, and yeah, we'll just go from there. So hopefully everyone will enjoy, and let's just get started. So give me just a second. All right.
Looks like you're ready.
Yeah, let's go.
So I'm gonna got 1, 2, 3 here.
Alright, 2, 3, 1.
They're just cutting decks, getting ready to mulligan.
2, 1, 3.
Yeah, I think in total we're going to see a rather interesting.
Would you like to take
level 0 game
standing or
from Fate Grand
resting?
Order as well.
I'll take resting.
Saekano's just going to
Maple to your
Saekano
second.
things. It's opening, send as much as it can to memory while trying to initiate the game plan, getting for a level 1 combo.
It's especially interesting to note that this comes after, specifically, the Saekano list is playing after a ban restriction, so he has much less powerful level 0 options as opposed to before.
Ditch 3.
Yeah, they've still got many options though for the level 0 game. Lots of just sheer utility in there as well still.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it looks like Callum's...
Sorry.
Oh, I thought it was...
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, because it's...
Yeah, Callum's going first, that's what I thought, yeah.
I think Callum here ideally wants to see an early standby, just to try and get himself going before Saekano can get itself up and running.
So I play Utaha, so it is on reverse, pay 1, send to memory to salvage a level 1 or lower from waiting. I'm just going to put them back. And then direct.
Yep.
For 2.
So we've got the salvage Ricky start, which is pretty good. It lets him generate his memory compression early.
Yep, standard draw.
Yep, and he seems to have a couple of decent options in the waiting room as well.
Clock. Draw 2. I think I will... Play double Ishtar.
Oh, double Ishtar right at the beginning.
Mind what they do again.
That's really aggressive.
At the start of my opponent's draw phase?
Yeah.
Sorry. Start of your opponent's draw phase. Real top card, if it's a level 1 or higher, bounce it back to hand. And then I can pay 1, sack
It's ideal for him as well. If you can get both of these to bounce back to hand at the beginning of his opponent's draw phase,
1500,
that'll just prevent the Saekano game as much as possible.
Okay.
Yep. Let me just turn both the players down a little bit, just so we can hear you a bit more clearly. So yeah, the important thing here is that it's obviously not only denying Callum of a reverse for his level 1 combo, not that Callum needs to reverse on level 1, but it also makes his field clear, because it's harder for Saekano to stick damage in the early game.
Definitely. Will he hit it? Oh, sadly he missed it.
The only thing is that Callum currently has no pieces to punish with, because, as we mentioned, this is post-restriction, so things like the drop salvage and the mill runner, which would have been really good in this situation, aren't in play anymore.
Yeah. He does have a fair few options though that he can at least trade characters with the Ishtars.
Yep.
Which I think you'll be looking to do, especially so that in the following turn, Liam can't just send them off to look at top 4 and advance his game as much as possible.
Yeah. So the only thing is, I think what Callum's doing here is he's chasing level 1 combo, which is, it's not bad. The problem is that it doesn't do anything to stop Liam's standby plan. And you know, when Liam gets his Gilgameshes online, Callum won't have a way of answering it.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think Callum will have much way of answering the Gilgameshes for a while, either way.
Yeah.
Just looking at his list, I think he's just hoping to get as much compression out as possible just now.
Okay, so he has got the drop search. So the middle Michiru is also, it's pay 1, encore it. If it's when it's reversed, then it goes to memory at the start of next turn. So yeah, he's setting up his memory, like his entire board is setting up memory at the moment, which is fine. I just think that, you know, if he levels up Liam at this point, I think there's no reason for Liam not to start chasing standby, and it's going to be really hard for him to get back from here.
Definitely, and we've obviously not seen Liam's hand, but I would expect Liam to either have a standby going into level 1 or already have it in hand.
So the argument is that, you know, Callum might not want to commit to the combo this early because he doesn't want to, you know, risk taking 3 or 4 damage from direct attacks, you know, while he's still in first deck and he's not fully compressed yet. So there's an argument for that. I just think that at the moment, you know, based on the fact that he's almost a level behind, or, you know, he's only just equalized the damage now, but, you know, Liam's had that turn of like sculpting that he wouldn't have been denied otherwise.
Yeah, Callum had to commit a lot more to board as well to get to that point of catching up on damage, I feel.
And he's only managed to equalize because he triggered a bar.
Yeah. Especially with Fate's not going to require a lot of stock going forward as well, so that being behind on stock's not going to hurt him too much.
I don't think I've seen a Gilgamesh in the waiting room yet, though.
Funnily enough, I think I was just thinking that as well, because that was a backup. I think it was the only green card I saw in that.
Okay, so he's got a gate in his hand. I think we can just see it on the bottom of the screen there. Yeah, it's a gate.
Yeah. Well, there's the Gilgamesh, so if you can get out some sort of discard, you'll be laughing. This is ideally if you could see a Ishtar in his hand, the level 0, just in play it, look at top 4 and just ditch the Gilgamesh. I think he'd be in a very good spot.
Yep. I think that's just, you know, the general weakness of standby decks, which is that, you know, if you're not standbying out your big guys, your game plan's kind of vanilla. And when you're playing vanilla Weiss, I think just by virtue of having memory compression, Saekano wins that game. So the pressure's definitely on Liam to make some plays.
Yeah, I didn't notice if he had maybe the Ishkagal in his discard, because that is obviously another target he could bring out, but I don't think he wants to bring that out at all really in this matchup, just because the fact he's going to overpower just the Gilgamesh in its own.
Yeah.
Here's the discard outlet he was looking for. He must have the standby in his hand if he's just searched out the combo for it as well.
I think so. Although he's got 5 cards in hands, it looks like, and we know one of them's a gate because we saw the glimpse of it earlier.
Yeah, this could. If Callum notices, well, obviously Callum doesn't know that there's also the gate in hand, but I think Callum would maybe suspect that there is a fair amount of climaxes out just from the way that he seems to be playing a bit more aggressively. So we might see Callum next turn just trying to push through as much damage he can, maybe with the level 1 combo, or even with a couple of his changers maybe in the back row, or even just the event to try and get through as much of his deck as well.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, he did have it. So the thing I'm interested in now is when he makes this Gilgamesh, is he going to have the support, the 1-0 mash assist as well to keep it up?
I don't think he's playing the 1-0 mash assist, if I remember right.
Let me have a quick look at his list.
His only assist other than the match he's got on the board just now, I believe, is a 1k global.
Yeah.
2-1 SHS.
Okay. So it means that it is actually possible for Callum to beat over if Callum finds the early play.
Would be quite interesting if Callum's maybe got the level 1 Fury into his hand with the recollection ability. If it's got +2/5 power and 6k if it's a level 2 across, then that could be interesting to try and get rid of these Gilgameshes as well.
But that'll be for next turn though, because right now Gilgamesh is in the front row. So the benefit here is that, so now that Liam's committed like this non-tempo turn, it's very tempo neutral. He's just attacking 3 times and getting his pluses. He's playing into Callum's memory generators basically. So what it means is that next turn Callum can now play his combo, get his quote-unquote filtering from his twin drives, and even though the bounce isn't as critical to him, it means that he can soak up on damage without having to lose cards in hand.
Yeah. You just have to see if he's just going to ram this the blue Mishiryu into the Ishtar on the left hand side here.
Yep.
Because just obviously then he doesn't get the on reverse and send it to memory effect. He's just going to play over it. That's fine.
Yeah. That's a lot of glare. I don't know if he... How do you play around the Ishtar though? Would you just side it? Because it's...
Yeah, you're not really getting much into it. I reckon you could just side it. You'd still get your combo off at that point. And you could even just use the twin drive at that point to try and guarantee that you're getting damage through. More than just the 1 point of damage through.
I'm surprised he didn't brainstorm though, because the point is that he wants to get into his second deck as fast as possible.
Unless he's having issues, just he's got loads of climaxes in hand. I don't know. So maybe just trying to play more of an information game than a pure aggression game. For those that don't know, the green level 1 here, it's a 4/5 base with additional 1k if he's got 2 or more other characters in the field, combos with that bar until the end of his opponent's turn. He gains the 2 effects of pay 1 on attack to drive check twice, which he's just doing there. And during the opponent's turn, if it's front attacked, he can bounce it back to hand.
So the important thing there is that it very specifically denies the Gilgamesh, because Gilgamesh needs to declare a direct attack to get the stock.
Yeah.
So Gilgamesh has to attack the 1-0, thus not getting the stock, but then the 1-0 bounces to hand, thus not getting reversed.
And he decided the Ishtar there as well.
Yep.
With the drive.
So he's willing to let Liam get the plus there in exchange for denying the empty slot, basically.
Yeah.
Which I think is fine, because the point of standby is that, you know, by committing characters to the board early, by having these unbeatable characters on the board, it pluses you by not having to refill your board and by not having to clock as aggressively to find pieces. So Liam clocks anyway, which I assume is just to dig and to get to closer to second deck.
Yeah, but he's a fair amount out. We saw the 2 I think he had in discard before the turn, then the standby, the gate in his hand, and he triggered the gate last turn. So I think he's just obviously trying to minimise as many cards going in as possible on this refresh.
Yep. So I think the play for Liam here, if I was in this position, is to ignore the fact that, you know, Callum's going to get the plus from the combo and just front them anyway, because it just gives you a little bit of extra damage. And at this point now, you need to play the damage race.
Definitely, I think that is, as you say, is the correct call.
Ooh, he hard plays a Gilgamesh.
It's not too bad for him in this situation because it's an extra climax out. As we saw, he had 4 there on his count, so he's now 5, 6 out. I've not seen. Maybe I've missed it, but I don't think I saw him drop the gate earlier either from his hand.
No, he did. He discarded it for the salvage on the Ishtar.
Oh.
Yep. So he plays another standby, and this one's much less valuable. The only benefit Liam has is that his board is never, other than the Ishtar, his board is probably never going away at this point. Because even if Callum gets to refresh and goes into the early play heal, that's 9-5 plus 2k is 11-5 plus the climax is 12-5, which the Gilgamesh beats that with counter, which I think we saw him get earlier.
I saw him discard one of the ST Gilgameshes earlier on, and he obviously had the one off the top 4.
Yep.
And 2, there's the 2 there, so he's actually out of backups, I think, by the looks of it.
Yep.
But he's just grabbing one there, so I guess he's making us eat our words as we say them.
Yeah, because he's only playing one copy of the level 1 counter.
I'm intrigued by his bringing out the level 3. I would probably have brought out his back row 1k global, just to try and have as much sticking power as possible on the board at this point in time.
Yeah, I see that. It could also be, you know, he's just trying to get like soul beat sticks on the board as well. Because to me, that's it. The fact that he's trying to get like his standbys out a beta for next turn implies to me that he might not have that many other like playables, you know. Like in this situation, you're going into his next. He's got quite a lot of deck left and quite a lot of climaxes out. So I think there's a very real possibility he's going to be level 3 by the time he gets to the second deck. And so, you know, the early play won't be an early play anymore. It'll just be a regular healer, and it's going to be hard for him to like make up that deficit.
It looks like also Callum here might be in a sticky pickle as well. He's got 5 climaxes going in by the looks of it. To his first refresh, and could see him also hitting level 3 on Liam's next turn as well.
Yeah.
Actually forgot that level 3 that he brought out is in fact a global 1-5 as well. So it definitely has provides the staying power over the 2-1.
Yeah. So yeah, the downside here is that if Callum wants to chase the early play heal, he's going to be going back with at most probably 6 in.
I wonder if he'll maybe play the event this turn and feel the search mechanic while getting the stock charge off and put the character into stock just to try and get a wee bit more compression. It also gives him an attack. He gives him basically 2 free stock. He'll also double check which character that is left in his deck.
Yeah.
He's not being trapped too much.
Yep. Yeah, we haven't had much cancels from either player here, which isn't great. Isn't great for either of them. It's just that, again, like I said, if we're playing just vanilla Weiss, then theoretically Saekano should have been favoured because of the memory compression, but we see that Callum didn't get much chance to build memory compression.
Yeah. In the same case, I think if this damage keeps sticking the way it is, then the standby isn't really doing much either for Liam over here. He's not managing to get those big things on the field that are either denying damage or just clearing the field off for his own damage to get through.
Alright, so Callum refreshes with 6, 3 of each. He just goes for the Brainstorm. I think that's fine as well. The only risk is that he needs to get a little bit lucky to mill the change target for the 1-0 here.
Yeah.
In order to advance his memory game plan.
I mean, you can play or if he hits the level 3, because he's level 2, so you can just play the level 2 this turn if you really want it. He has the stock for it.
Yeah.
Just limits his entire front field for the rest of that turn. But he obviously has the level 0 in the back row still from the very beginning of the game that he could bring forward if he needs to.
So he misses that, but he does hit the 2-1, which is decent.
Yep.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So this thing, I don't think, like, if he plays the early play heal now, I understand, but I personally think it probably wasn't worth chasing the early play heal here, because, like, he had to pay the stock to Brainstorm to get himself into refresh to meet the early play condition, and now he's paying 2 more stock to negate the damage that he just took from that play anyway. So he's overall -3 stock for no real benefit, like, for no major change in game state beyond having a 3-2 body in play.
I think ideally here you'd want to have a couple of events in hand. Just thin down as much as possible, get a few free stock, and then just, I think ideally also then crash in with his level 1 combo again.
Yeah, although I think the fact that he brainstormed implies that he doesn't have the event. But based on the fact that he refreshed 6, I think we know he definitely has another pair of combo in hand and then the other climax to go with it. Yeah. But like we said, at this point, like we said earlier on, it's impossible for him to get over the Gilgameshes. And so that combo now has really lost its value.
Okay, so the Gilgameshes are 11 and 11-5 in the center, if I remember right. Which would make these entities able to just get over. One of them's definitely dead, because they both should be relatively big, but we'll obviously know that Liam here's got one of the 2-5 backups in his hand.
Yeah.
So he should manage to save one without any issue.
So I can see him probably playing the bar here, and he's holding onto the gate for the finishing combo, I think.
Still, because
I know, but I think it's not really going to matter, because we saw that Liam's quite a few out. He's still got quite a few cards in deck, so I think there's a high potential that Liam levels up this turn as well.
Yeah, I think Liam is very much more than likely going to be a level 3 by this turn.
So he's pumping all to middle, so he's...
Yeah.
I think 14 gets over the 2-5 counter, if I'm right.
It should be a crash at that point, because he's 11-5 in center, if I remember right.
Right, the mash brainstorm also gives power, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's just a matter of which one does he want to back up in this case.
So I think he's going to keep the middle one alive.
Unless he's got double level 3 in hand and he's just thinking, I'll just play them out this turn, the following turn, and keep the stock to get them out as much as possible. Going for the double trigger again.
Okay, that's not too bad.
I'm not too confident about that double trigger. Just because if that had not been a climax, if Liam had that in hand, that would have just been a bit more of an overshot, I think, than you really should have gone for, personally.
I think it was fine, because he's just refreshed, like, he refreshed one off. He took one as a refresh damage off the top, leaving 5 in deck. If he triggers a climax on the double trigger, it leaves him with 4. But I don't think it's that damaging for that situation. Because like we know that he has a gate in hand. He's just triggered the 3/2 that he can always change into at the start of his climax phase if he needs it. So his game plan is not under any threat if he goes for the double trigger. And I think again he needs that damage to stick because we're playing vanilla Weiss still.
For a showcase of these two decks, they're not really getting to do what they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not sure if Callum can even reach 4 memory by that level 3. Because he'll go up to 3 with the 2-1, so he needs to ideally play another 1-0 to get to 4.
Yeah. Comes there, they'll play mash.
So, we'll see if he has a second.
I like to think he does, considering he didn't back up one of the Gilgamashes.
Yeah, there it is. The only downside is that it's discard 1 to heal to stock, so he's down 4 cards in hand, and he's only comboed once, and his Gilgamesh has only survived 1 turn. So I think it's going to be really hard for him to recoup the hand size going to level 3.
Yeah, I don't think these are going to have much more staying power than the Gilgameshes did, in all honesty. They're just much slightly bigger. I mean, the center one on defense is going to be 13.5, I think. Yeah, 13.5. Which, while a lot of decks would struggle to get over that, I think Saekano will manage.
If he has the early play, then yeah, the Shimakai will push something. But again, I don't think Callum has that, because if he did have it, I think he would have played it this turn.
I do like the way that Callum has actually switched from his memory game. It seems to be going for a more stock compression-based game.
Yeah, the 1-0 area is definitely putting in a lot of work.
Yeah. And there's the anti-change back up.
I think that counter makes it trade as well. No, it's a bit short.
No.
Right, it's only when it attacks. I thought it was whenever it battles. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only I think it's only when it's level 2 as well.
Right. Okay.
So it doesn't get over level 3s.
Yeah. So that's a really big cancel coming in for Callum, which is great. And then Liam sides the combo, which I think was a mistake. I mean, he cancelled anyway, but I think at that point, like, once you lose an attacker, I think that's when you need to be a bit more concerned about the damage race.
Yeah. Especially because of the fact that he's now a wee bit more stock starved than he was before.
Exactly.
Like, only having 4 going into his level 3 turn.
Yeah, like this was meant to be the turn that Liam pulls ahead, but instead all he's done is equal. Like, all he's done is stay the same. So like the damage is still equal, except he has less stock and less hand compared to Callum. And obviously Callum has the initiative going into his turn. The other thing to be concerned about now, especially for Liam, is that if you look at Callum's clock, he's got 3 copies of the level 3 there.
Yeah.
And we saw him, he has 1 in play and he has 2 in stock. So it wouldn't be hard for him to now, at this point, grab a 1-0, change into the 2-1 that he just paid out, and now he has 2 level 3s ready to go at any moment. And again, we know that he refreshed with 6. So it's very much a case of, well, he probably has it. He has the gate for sure. So I think at this point, Liam now needs to... Liam's been... I think if... Again, I don't know if Liam's been paying attention and is aware of this, but I think knowing that he could die, the moment Callum hits level 3, I think Liam really now needs to play a defensive game.
Yeah, he's not got a lot to go for his defensive game though at the moment either. He's just, I think, very starved on all fronts.
Mm-hmm.
How much stock do you have?
4 now.
Yeah. Especially now, because Callum didn't level up this turn, what he now has the flexibility of doing is he can just change the 0-0 into the 1-0 that he has in the waiting room, and then use that to go into the 2-1, and then that gives him his 4th piece of memory. And then he ends this turn with 7 stock, which is enough for him to hard play the 2-1 that he just searched for next turn, and have a full field of 3 level 3s as well.
Yeah, I think you, if you can, you definitely change the level 0 macro. There's argument to even change the level 2, but I don't think the level 2 is changing.
Well, you have to be level 3 to do that.
That's a good point. Yeah, I forgot about that condition on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going for the...
Yeah. It's because he knows that, he has... I think he can afford to brainstorm. He brainstorms down to 3 stock, goes up to 6, pays 1 to play the 2-1, and then pays 3 to change. Yeah, he definitely hasn't. He can do all of that while still holding another counter as well. And at this point, he's just happy to crash, because now Liam's...
Yeah.
Even though the damage parity is even, I think Liam's overall deck state is much worse off than Callum's.
Yeah, and I think even just leaving the centre row open with the character in it isn't going to be detrimental for Callum. I don't think Liam's really playing any on reverse punishment. I think it's just the base charge just on attack, if I remember right.
Yep. Yeah, so the important thing as well is that by brainstorming, it also gets him a little bit closer to refresh.
Yeah, he's now hit the... Is it 3 now in memory? Yeah.
Yep. And this is the main difference here, right? Their board states look relatively similar, but Callum's hand is way bigger.
Yeah.
I took it.
I've not seen the refresh counter yet from Callum either, so if he does get this through and refreshes, then even if he just triple cancels, he's still in a fine spot.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's still got at least 1 cancel guaranteed. I think he still has 1 more bar left in the deck.
The bar's in the clock.
It is the clock, so his deck is clean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because he just triggered 1 gate and the other gate is in his hand. So he does that instead. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that one cut.
The only downside is that he's now refreshing with 5 instead of 6. So again, his deck compression is going to be quite awful. So I think he's probably forced to use the... No, he can't afford to use the refresh counter now. That's the only downside. Because he has 4 stock, so he has to pay 1 for the 2-1, and then 3 to change them all into 3-2s. But I think that's fine, because the 3-2s are still in his clock, so as long as he refreshes before he levels up, I think there shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, he should be fine in this front. He's got the level 3 game up pretty much set up for himself here.
What's it?
Oh, this is quite a tricky one here for Liam. He's got 4 climaxes left in his deck, so that he's actually fairly well compressed with what he's got left.
He was actually fairly well compressed that turn, so I'm actually surprised he leveled up.
Yeah.
Especially given that he had an open lane as well. Yeah, I think the main problem here is that he never got to resolve any Gilgameshes, so he's starved going into level 3.
Whether he has enough cards in hand that he can field a full field here at least to try and generate a bit more stock, or if he's just going to maybe go for maybe only 2 attacks and try and keep it as compressed as possible, hoping that he's not going to trigger a climax off the top here on his attack.
Yeah. Honestly, if I think I'm Liam in this position, I would only field 2 attacks, and I would just try to crash into Callum's board, because Callum didn't combo, very importantly. So the 1-0 Megami is not bouncing,
especially since he just got a marker off the top that was completely clean.
Yeah. So I think it would have been fine for Liam to just swing twice, go to 4 stock, leave a board empty, and make it so that he can't get Katoed next turn. Because if his board is empty, it de-incentivizes Callum to play the climax. So Callum will then just be swinging for a vanilla 3-3-3, and that's a lot easier to deal with compared to, say, 3-1-3-1-3-1. And I don't think... How big does that Ishtar in the middle get with counter? 14, right? Or 15?
So it's 500 for every other character, so it's currently
11,
12,
13.
5, 13 on defense, so it'll be 15-5 with the 2-5 backup.
So that, yeah, well, okay, no, but it doesn't matter because he can't.
Backup,
no, but he can't use backups anyway because he'll have 4 memory.
Yeah.
So it's 13
So
defense.
13-5. Yeah, 13.
Which I think the Megami beats. I think Megami gets to hang on, it's 9 plus 2 plus 1k from the climax. It ties, I think.
If he triggers a standby here, on the other hand, he should be able to get big enough. If he puts another copy of the Merlin into the back row, or even the 2-1 1k global.
Right, yeah.
It should put him up to 13.5 or 14,000.
Which would then require Callum to have another drop search.
Yep.
Mm. I think it's very risky if that's what he's going for, though.
Especially since I think there was only one of the climaxes left in his deck was a standby out of the 4.
I think it was 2. Oh, that's... He's refreshed the climax twice, that's... can't be good. Yeah. I actually think that there was no need for Callum to use the drop search there, because he was going to get to 4 memory no matter what between the 2 copies of the 2-1. Yeah. And it would have given him 1 more stock, so that... Because if he plays the 2-1 from hand now, and he changes all 3 of them, he won't have the stock to use the combo on one of the attacks. And I think he needs to keep one of the 2-1s now to get to punch over the Merlin support as well.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
4 climaxes though in 7 cards. I think we might still see another turn out here from Liam.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good fortune from Liam that he didn't trigger that turn.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Callum's dealing with 4 cards in quite a large deck.
Was it 5 refresh? Because he'll now only have 3.
Yeah.
He
cancelled as well, right? Yeah, so it's 3 climaxes, yeah.
Which is even worse position for him.
Mm-hmm. So he just hard plays it, okay.
Is that the level 3?
So he's going to change just one of them.
The level 3 is only going to be, what, 11...
13 with climax, 14.5 with the assist. So the middle one's going to be 15.
Yeah.
I think that's fine, especially because you can't counter. The only concern is that he'll have one stock at the end of this turn. And he's got no way of going through his deck anymore. And I think we're both pretty confident that Liam's going to survive this.
Yeah. Especially because the damage from the combo isn't coming through till after the damage from the card itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, mine is 11.
If it was the other way around, then at least the Soul Trigger could have just pumped it up even a wee bit more for 4 points of damage into level 3.
Yeah. I think the only other thing Callum can bank on here is that surviving this turn, Liam can't then make a board to threaten back with. Which is likely. Liam's only got 3 cards in hand. Because like we said, you know, Fate doesn't have that much plussing power beyond, you know, standbying its bodies and keeping them alive.
There's a part of me that thinks here that Callum could just not use the combo in itself and just to keep the stock alive.
No, I don't think that would get him anywhere. It would mean that he can play another healer next turn, but he can do that anyway because he has 2 1s in the back row, assuming that the Megamis die. And he's 1 short off of using the refresh counter as well, so I don't think that makes a difference.
So, 1, 2, 3.
2, 1, 3.
Yeah. I think in hindsight, like, given like how Callum's game has gone in terms of, you know, refreshing climax and whatnot, I probably would have chased repeating the 1-0 combo this turn and just, like, you know, forcing through Liam's, like, because Liam was what, 2 or 3 in bin at the start of the attack phase?
Yeah.
So Callum knows that there's at least 4 in deck in a 7-card deck. So I think Callum could have assumed that, you know, he wasn't going to get that much damage through. And paying stock forward is effectively just 3 damage, I think, is a really bad trade. Whereas if he had gone for the Megami instead, the 1-0, he could have, like, decked in a bit further, maybe stayed alive, you know, dig into his cancels, and also leave a board empty very critically.
Yeah. Just play to his advantages of generating stock and keeping his hand size up at this point in time.
Yeah. Because 5 memory is a significant number, but it came a bit too late. Like, he didn't refresh with that memory, he refreshed with only 6 climaxes. I think that's gonna... I think that lack of focus on the compression is probably what's going to come back to get him.
This brainstorm's quite big there for Liam. That's 2 searches he's getting.
Yeah.
He can at least field 3 attackers this turn.
I think one of the searches definitely has to be an Ishtar's suicide. And just crash into the 1-0. And just leave his board empty. Because Liam refreshed with 7, which is also pretty big.
He could even, if he was feeling very greedy, get the Ishtar combo off.
I don't think that's worth it. I think in this position, I would... Because Callum's on 3-0. Like, you need to deal 7 damage through at most 4 climaxes. And I don't think Fate has the... FGO has the damage output to do that. And I think knowing that, I think you have to take the greed and just play a non-kill turn here to go for the guaranteed kill turn next turn. Because if he goes for, like, you know, damage output this turn,
Yeah.
Callum's not going to die, but all it does is dig Callum deeper into, like, you know, the ability to refresh with more climaxes. And then once Callum refreshes with the 5 memory, I think that's when the compression will start coming into play.
That mash should be trading.
Discard one. Stop.
Yeah, and then he plays the Gilgamesh. And then probably pushes the Merlin up in front of the 1-0. I think that's the only way he's going to get enough damage output to
Place on stage. Search.
even chase the game here. But like we said, you know, that's 7 damage that has to all stick, which I think is... It's unlikely. Like, even though Callum's not very at all compressed, I don't think he's at all at risk of dying.
Just gonna play this mash straight off here.
Could you repeat powers again? That's alright.
12k, 10-5.
Okay, 10k, like 12k, 10k.
12k, 10-5, and
So yeah, he beats over easily.
The only thing is trying to guarantee this suicide on the 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
Place the card down. Okay, top card. I'll put it at the bottom.
So I want to see if if Liam has a gate here. If Liam has a gate here, he has lethal damage on the board.
Gonna keep something around for the following turn.
Yeah. He does not. Okay. Yeah, I'm really not a fan of leaving a board up against Saekano. Because
Especially when
Callum's
you
only got
back
2
up.
gates in the waiting room. So if you don't like force them out here, if Callum draws into a gate, there's a very good chance the game ends.
What damage do you want?
3-1.
3-1.
Especially this Gilgamesh isn't big enough to sort of contest the level 3 game.
2,
It's only 12-5. So it's just not big enough.
Yeah. So it's definitely getting reversed by the 3-2 on Callum's turn.
11, 12.
Yeah, there's no point Callum back upping here. He can save the stock to change instead and get the extra heal off.
4, 2.
So there's 1 gate down.
How many cards in?
9 cards though, if he's drawing 3 and get that gate, then no, I've seen worse odds.
But realistically, he actually doesn't even need the combo here. If he just double changes into healers, he just heals back down to 3-2. Oh, he can't double heal, he's only got 1 stock, never mind.
Yeah, I think what you'd probably do is change your 2 side lanes and have the 3-2s there, and then just swing with something down the middle.
No, because if you change one of the level assists, he can't win both lanes anymore. Because then only one of them will be
The
12-5.
mash- Yeah, the mash is also 12-5.
Exactly.
And if he keeps the 3-2 in the middle and swings down, gets a soul icon on his trigger, then that's lethal at that point.
Gilgamesh.
I think ideally you want to be swinging 2-2-2 here, but
Yeah. He can do that. He can definitely do that. The difference is that if he actually hits a climax, then he leaves the 3-2 in the middle and fields 2 1-soul bodies, and then he's swinging for 4-2-2 instead. Or rather, 4-2-2, or he can go 3-2-2-2 as well. Oh, sorry, 3-3-2-2-2. So it's currently looking like 2-2-1. No, he's going for 2-2-2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he needs. So if Callum swaps the position of his level X, he can trade. He can force trades on both lanes, which is. Yeah, because the Mash is 12-5 and the Gilgamesh is
12-5 also.
right because it's global. Yeah. So he only can test one, which is the downside here.
Yeah.
So he's crashing no matter what. So yeah, he's going for 2-3.
Not a massive fan of that. I think if you were to do this, you could leave the 3-2 in the middle. Just to try and keep some sort of body on the field.
Yeah. No, he can contest both, because he played the drop search, which pumps by 2k.
Yeah, he did actually. Yeah. Changing both out here.
Oh right, he wants the double heal instead of contesting a lane. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. I guess that means he didn't draw the gate then.
It's 13.
Yeah, he didn't draw the gate. There it is.
Okay. These climax places are just not in Callum's favour here.
Yeah. So yeah, Callum has to trigger here to have a chance at winning the game.
At least he's got a decent chance with twin.
Yes. That's a shame. But even if this fails, he's on 3-2 and he's actually got fairly good compression. Like he's definitely refreshing with 7. So it's not the end of the world. Yeah, no trigger. Oh, there was a trigger, but he cancelled, so so Liam sticks. The only thing that concerns me is that Callum hasn't left his board empty, and now the 3-2 is just 9k defensive.
Yeah.
I could see him being incentivized to free fresh counter now, because he has the 3-2s on the board in the back row that he can just push forward next turn,
Yeah.
and the free fresh counter lets him get a pretty good refresh in.
I think he'd also just be willing to throw his 3-2 away, just because the fact he has the 2 for follow up.
Yeah.
He's not having to search for them anymore. That's one of the advantages of doing the change that time.
Oh, I don't know about this. I don't like that. It keeps him overall neutral on compression. So like when he refreshes, it's one less card out. It's one less damage that he has potentially might take. So it's one less card out of there, and then one less card on the board. So one less card in the waiting room. But then it's 2 more cards out, and he loses the option to free refresh. Oh, he has 8 out, right? Because he paid out the gate with the twin drive. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. He pays 3 for the Gilgamesh. So Liam actually has a fair chance of winning here, because if he takes refresh into account, he just needs to swing for 2-2-2, and he has potential 2 swings of lethal. Because Callum will refresh to 3-3, and then 2 of the 2s just need to stick.
Looks like that's what he's setting up for 2-2.
Mm-hmm. So Callum is 8 out, and his compression is now quite good, because now he has the memory. Yeah, I think at this point now, it's just Weiss Schwarz.
Yeah. Because it's just one card left in deck for Callum, so...
Correct.
I think...
And it's clean damage as well, so he's definitely got 1 damage going in through refresh. So he basically needs to cancel the 2 level 2 swings, as long as Liam doesn't trigger.
Is he maybe going for the Operation Tornado here? The combo? Oh wait, he can actually. Well, he could if he moved it swap to the center.
Yeah, I don't think he needs that. It's better if he goes. I think it's better to just go 2-2-2 in this situation.
I think you'd have to go 2-2 in this situation, even though you're not guaranteeing that one damage is perpendicular.
Yeah, exactly. Oof.
Mind you, if this sticks, then it makes his job a lot easier.
I don't think it does. Because there's no way of swinging for 1.
At the same time, we also know that Callum doesn't have the gate in hand just now, so if Callum doesn't top deck it on the returning turn, then he's not getting it because he can't clock.
I mean, that's fine. Callum has swings for 2, and Liam's on 3-5. So as long as Callum survives, I think Liam dies. So he's got 2 swings for 2, and they both need to stick here. It's not unreasonable.
No, but Callum also had an ideal placement there on his climax for the cancel.
Yeah.
And also Liam's just triggered a climax, which doesn't
That's
help.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out. Yeah. Oh my lord. Yep, I think this game's over. Doesn't have the damage output to kill on this swing.
Yeah. If he triggers a climax, it's 100% over here.
Oh,
Yeah, there we go.
that's a really bad. Yeah, that was a really bad pair of triggers there. I think what Liam's really hoping for here is that. I think Liam does have 2 left, so I think that's how he survived. Oh my lord.
Yeah, Liam should have 2 left. We was 5 out before that trigger.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Callum's not keeping too much track and isn't going to ask. That's, I think, all Liam can really hope for just now.
Yeah, we'll see if Callum has another way to make another 2-soul beat stick, and I think it's over. And yep, there it is.
Yeah, he salvaged that last turn. So.
Mm-hmm.
Now, really just adding insult to injury at this point.
Yeah. Well, top deck. If he top deck the 4th gate and slams it, then that's pretty much. It's a guaranteed overkill, but yeah, it would do it the job. Although I don't think it matters much at this point.
It's just those Saekano muscles flexing for life.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I think the problem here was that because Callum played such a passive level 0, Liam didn't really capitalize on that, and so as a result, you know, like that time we saw when Callum leveled up to level 1 but just made a field of level 0s, like Liam didn't really do much into that, like, because I think he was worried about playing around the combo, but then Callum got the combo off anyway, and then that ended up denying the Gilgameshes. Whereas I think, you know, if you pressure Saekano in a way that, you know, they don't have time or the capability to combo off, then it's harder for them to not leave open slots.
Yeah.
And we've seen that all game, you know, Liam's been fairly starved on stock. Like, he's never had more than 5. And I think that really would have made a difference.
So 11, 12,
Looks like he's not opting to do the change here.
There's a good chance there's 2 sticks anyway. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Alright. So that's the end of that game. I think, as Chris said, this was really not an ideal showcasing for either deck's capabilities.
No, I need one of those
if you give us just a minute, what we'll do is we'll switch over and we'll get an interview with these guys. We'll have a chat with them about the game. So let me just unmute on Discord and reset some audio levels.
Felt like I was taking too much damage early, just like all my deck was like climaxes, but just like nothing was coming through.
Alright, so we're gonna... You guys happy to like do the post-game interview now?
I'll go for it.
Yeah, alright, so what we'll do is, I'll show Callum's list first, you can talk about the game. It goes without saying, try and be courteous, try not to interrupt each other while each other's talking, and then after Callum, we'll go on to talk about Liam, alright? Alright, so let's move over. So, yeah, so we were saying how the game is... Something that Chris and I were talking about during the commentary is that early game, but neither deck really got to showcase what they what their game plan was. It was a lot of vanilla Weiss, like especially the time where you went into level 1 and you just fielded zeros rather than aggressively chasing combo. Like it worked out for you in the end, especially once you got to like say level 3 and you finally got to refresh with like more than 4 cards in memory and start building that compression. It really made a difference.
Yeah.
So that was quite interesting to see. So before we get into that though, what are your general comments at the start now to start off this interview? Any like thing you want to say?
In terms of what, the tournament or the game or
anything? Go for it.
I have nothing to say because it's like my head's just like I just wanted to get that over with. I don't really know much to say. It's like Personally, it's just like, much as I can do with this deck, it's like, if people decide off against me, it's like, it becomes a real struggle later on. But it does help when I start to basically take the game into my own hands. It's like, being pushed straight onto level 1 early did not help me whatsoever, because it's like, I didn't have the bar at first, so I literally had to go boarding zeros and just try and hopefully work it off after that.
Yeah, because that's what...
Yeah,
it's definitely one thing we noticed is that, it was basically Liam's game to play there because you don't care about his board. Like he's the one that cares about your board because obviously your combo denies his Gilgamesh. So the fact that you had that turn at level 1 where you just played zeros, it was a really big chance for him to like catch up there. And then obviously you got like a few cancels here and there in the early game and he didn't. And as a result, he had much less stock than you, which as in turn affected compression.
I wasn't really cancelling much early game though. I was starting to cancel later game, but it's just like because
you had one or two, and like so there was one turn specifically where I think Liam was like 2-3 or 2-2, and you were also like 2-3, 2-2, and it was like his chance to even up, and then I think you just like double cancelled that turn or something.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so
that's when that's when the cancels started to kick in because my deck has started to compress to a point where I should start be seeing them now.
Exactly, you start building up the memory, and this just sort of became uncontestable from there.
This card though would probably be my MVP for the game because of the fact it denied his Gilgamesh slip.
Yes, that was the other thing we were going to mention. Yeah, so the point about a standby deck is that he farms his advantage by not having to replace a board, and his oversized characters do a lot more work. But then once you remove those with the 1-0 Ery, it becomes a lot harder for him to play the game because he has to now commit resources and clock phase to rebuild the board. And that's actually really interesting because you only played 2 copies of that 1-0 Ery. So was that something that
the whole deck sculpts itself, so
yeah. So was that an active choice you made, like going into it? Like, did you think to yourself, I'm going to need this card for a variety of matchups, in particular this one, and did you like prioritize in any way, or was it more just like, okay, well, I'm just going to try and play my regular game, and then if this comes up, it comes up?
I personally had one to begin with just before I did my actual list, and I was thinking to myself, even with the standby matches and that, when I played Kevin in the Anime Evo finals, it's like this card did put in work during the tournament, and it's like compared to the Kato I was using, because originally I used the Kato that literally when you check a bar you can drop it, and I felt to myself I didn't really need that much because I'd rather like to keep the bars in my hand so I can recycle the combo. That's generally my overall perspective. And when I was playing against Data Live during that event, I'm like, right, this person having 2-2 on the board and I had no way to contest them. And I think with stuff like that, it's like both Ruri's got a standby build now, which is good. And then you've got Princess Connect's got like a standby level 3 build, which is good. It's like, there's quite a few amount of standby decks are popping up, and I feel like, especially with those with stock charging engines, I'm like, when I can like build my board, my level 1 Castos, like triple board them, I'm just like, right, I can deny him his stock, and then I'm just gonna go start slamming these down and just basically take out what he got there, so he can't get his stock generation pluses, which is basically the main plan.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So one thing I want to focus on is during the game, there was one point where I think like 2 turns back to back, you refreshed damage to climax, and there was the bar in particular, like. And I think that was at the point where we were thinking like, oh, this game might be starting to get away from him, and then you somehow brought it back by aggressive. Like, I remember seeing like there was one turn where you aggressively crashed in your drop searcher just to build the memory immediately, rather than holding stock for the free refresh counter. So I just like kind of want to see like talk us through like what you're thinking, your game plan there. Like it's you out of nowhere just suddenly started falling behind. How do you like not let that get to you, and how do you just play through and continue building that memory?
I think most of all the memory compression, it was a more validated, because even then, if I was to use my refresh counter, I'm like, I just literally have to play with the anti-change, so I'm like, okay, I'm having to consume stock to let myself get pushed back further. So that was the main thing, especially when it has like 2 early plays. I'm basically denying him the chance to hit me harder. I felt like after that, it's like, I don't know whether or not was the right timing to do a refresh, even though I had my drop searcher the turn before last. I was like thinking to myself, do I really need to? Because for all I can tell, he can just literally go direct for 2, and that would literally put me into an even worse position.
Yeah.
So I'm like, right, I'd rather put myself to 1 in deck, so I'm like, okay, this one, so I'm going to try and minimize the amount of I'm going to be taking. Even though I am putting 2 cards back more into the refresh, it's basically better than having 2 cards for me to go either direct or slam without a climax. And I'm like, when he's not gonna have the gate in his hand, because his hand size is gonna be extremely low, especially when he's hard playing the pay free encore.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I think and it worked out in the end. You did win, so can't really complain about that. So yeah, thanks for that. So let's switch over to look at Liam's list. All right, so Liam, commiserations. I'm sorry that it didn't work out the way it did. There were
Sadly, yes.
Yeah, you had quite a few chances of coming really close. Like there were 2 or 3 times where Chris and I were just looking at it, it's like, oh, he has lethal on board. He just needs to get a little bit lucky, and you ended up triggering 2 gates back to back.
2 turns of lethal, as well as I wasn't able to maybe draw a climax and maybe make a few more lethals. So the Ishtar at the end was kind of just there to heal, sadly.
Yeah.
It's like I had the mash climax swap in case I got the standby, but I didn't get either.
So yeah, like we were saying earlier, this matchup was the ball is entirely in your court, because Callum's going to combo no matter what. He's going to change and build memory no matter what, and it's up to you to like force him to play into you, so that you can get your Gilgamesh, get your standby engine to actually like make value for you. It's like, is that something that you were actively thinking about going into the matchup? Like, how did you approach this?
I decided to change my approach a little bit completely. And like with his bounce combo, Iresh was barely going to get off. If maybe I get like 1 or 2 Ireshes throughout the entire game. So I decided just to not focus on that, focus on just trying to build board. I was kind of hoping he didn't have both the 1-0s in his hand to counter at the Gilgameshes, but that was a bit of a shame for that turn. I wasn't worried about stock. My game plan at the end was there was probably no chance I'd be able to play 2 Ishtars and do both turns. So I was going to have to rely on other means, such as tri-fielding mashers to maybe pay to reverse burn, or using the Gilgamesh for clock kick and then maybe doing 1 Ishtar. But it started just running ahead away at me at the end of the game.
Yeah, especially because it reached a point where like we said, you never really had more than 5 stock all game, and you were constantly like having to like replay a board to refill your board. And when it comes to like filling a board, he's obviously his deck is much better at that than yours is, which is obviously not ideal. So it was definitely an uphill battle. I get that much. Do you think there was maybe anything you could have done differently to like approach the game?
Honestly, I don't think there was much I could have done. It's like I only played one climax in the game. Actually, no, I played two. I think two standbys. Apart from that, the last I think 3 turns, I just had to swing and try and push for damage. I knew I was on a bit of a timer. The longer the game goes on, the more compressed it gets, the more memory it gets. So
Yeah.
I just had to do what I can. If I maybe got a gate early on it too, I could have maybe slammed that down and pushed for a bit more. But
it's also very awkward, right? Because he reaches a point where you have to be very aggressive into him in the early game so that he can't get that much value out of his bounce combo. But at the same time, you can't be too aggressive going to the late game because then you give him targets to 3-2 on you.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll start with Liam first, since you're already here. Have you got any other comments you want to make to the stream or in general, anything you want to say?
Well, I wish everyone good luck.
All right.
Hopefully I might be able to get... Probably not. Probably lost this round, so... Don't think I can get top now. But, oh well.
You never know. Yeah, no worries. Well, good luck on the rest of your rounds. Hopefully you do much better going forward. So, Callum, any comments you want to make?
Yeah, I'm just glad there's no Kid Naive at this tournament to give me more PTSD.
Alright.
I'm just happy to go forward with this and see how far I can do. See if I can get another top 8 cup with the deck again.
Yep.
Hopefully so. We'll see.
Alright, no worries. So thanks very much, guys. So what we're going to do now is we're going to quickly switch to back to the standby while we get the next feature match in. So thanks again for you two for a great game, being on stream, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Alright, thank you very much.
I'll see ya. Bye bye.